Good afternoon. Welcome to our meeting. And this is a public hearing for Kanawha Falls Public Service District wastewater and water utilities. I want to let you know that Commissioner Fayette and myself are here. Commissioner Taylor is on Zoom. Commissioner Taylor, you there?
I'm here.
Okay, thank you. Before we get started, I wanted to tell you some things. We're here today pursuant to an order entered upon a vote by the County Commission on April the 15th, 2025, where the Commission proposed the dissolution of the Kanawha Falls Public Service wastewater and water utilities, contingent upon a plan for acquisition of those assets and customers by West Virginia American Water. Part of the process for the Commission to vote to dissolve the PSD is to hold a public hearing. And that's why we're here today, to make sure we follow the right things. Ultimately, it is Commission's responsibility to determine whether the acquisition by West Virginia American Water is conducive to the preservation of public health, comfort, and convenience to this area. The purpose of this public hearing is to hear from you, all the people resigning or owning or having an interest in property in that area serviced by the Kanawha Falls Public Service District wastewater and water utilities. As a result, only those people who have signed to speak today will be given an opportunity to speak. So if you signed the wrong clipboard, now's the time to go and sign the correct one. You'll have 2 minutes to address the Commission about the proposal. You must identify yourself, identify your address, and so we can make sure that's within the public service area. Please keep your comments to the issue at hand. At the time, I'll open up the microphone for the public comments. And Michael, if you would grab me the clipboard, please, that has everyone listed that would wish to speak. I'll go down the list as they signed. Okay, I have 4 people that have signed to speak. One of them I don't see here. I know he was stuck in traffic.
There, Joey's on the phone with him right now.
What's that?
Joey's on the phone with him right now.
Oh, good.
All right. Mr. Smithston. Since there's only 4, we can stretch out the time to talk a little bit longer, but not for half an hour. And remember, you want to say your name, your address.
My name is Mike Smithson. I live at 71 Glen First Loop Road, Glen First, West Virginia. I'm here today because the commissioner's doing a good thing, obviously, in a way, but I don't think they've done their due diligence for everything. I haven't seen anything from the commission in the meetings or in writing that shows me that they compare rates, previous rates for American Water to other public service districts. I also believe in the last meeting that Commissioner Taylor made the comment that she wasn't even sure which way to go because she listened to some people, then she listened to other people, and then she made her decision off of that. So the due diligence here is very important. I looked up tariffs for American Water for other districts. And I see what I've seen is about a third difference in rates over a long period of time. So I'm asking you guys, maybe if you guys can pause this decision and get some more information about what's going on. I also think that American Water was a little bit deceiving. And this is based on the last meeting I listened to. Whereas we were told by the commission, we're gonna get $2.5 million for the county. Yet Commissioner Taylor said, we're only gonna get 1.5 because there's a $1 million operation cost from American Water. So you know, when you look at stuff like that, it doesn't make you really happy about if the decision being done the right way. See, I got way more here I can talk about, but keep it short. I just believe that also the PSC is the problem here. You know, you had the situations at the prison, and then all the problems came about, and then the PSC jumps in. You know, they need to do their due diligence too, and they should be looking at every water district in the state to see how bad they are. I mean, we're not the only one, and if you look at the list that the engineer did for the PSC, the 13-page list that the attorney talked about, you know, most of that stuff was fixing fences, was, you know, cutting grass, painting little rust spots on the tanks. Nothing that needed a lot of time or money to do. All of a sudden, American Water wants to come in and say, we're gonna dangle this carrot, give you $50 million, we're gonna do this. We know all the water pipes have issues, but that's everywhere. So if you make a decision and get rid of our water district, with American Water, this is when you're not gonna be able to ever change. You know, once they're in, it's gonna be forever, whether we like it or not. Everybody talks about the rates, and I've seen it. You know, we can look at tariffs, we can look at other, I've called places. I've called the state of Illinois to talk to their water people. I talked to Missouri because they wrote in the news how American Water wanted hundreds of $millions rate increases. I haven't seen any district in our state ask for over hundreds of millions of water or money for our water district. You know, and I also, state of Illinois gave a C-. That was on the internet, on the news. So this is the kind of stuff we talk about. Nobody's talking about and hasn't really looked into it. And if you guys can pause it, maybe get some other outside help to look at all this stuff before you make this final decision. And if you have to make the decision based on that, that's fine. But I don't see it right now. I don't see that we did it. All we're going off of is what the state did, you know, and the state come in, I believe, with the intention to just beat up the water district. They'll say, oh, no, it's good, it's for the people. So, no, it wasn't, because we haven't had an issue in the last year. We know the history of the water district, but since that changed with the board we had, everything, we haven't had any issues. And as far as the prison goes, you know, that should be a separate entity for that water and that sewer. They should come up with their own project for that. That shouldn't rely on us. They got 1,100 employees up there that can babysit stuff, you know, like that treatment plant you want to put in Connaughton Holler. You know, they should be doing that, not us. So that's about it right now. Any questions?
Not at this time, I don't have any.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate everybody.
Allison, got any? Okay,
Mr. Bass?
Friends.
Thomas Bass, I live in 168 Baker Street in Boomer, West Virginia. And been there a little over 30 years, so. I believe Sergeant Young was correct. I think you should pause it. As I was looking, I was trying to catch up, and I have been looking at some of the meeting minutes, and I actually reviewed the engineering argument that put us into this the PSD and system we're into, and you could argue that with American Water. I mean, the problems I had in Charleston, lines going apart, people without water, taking out the gas lines. And yeah, they're under major work there. They're under major work in East Bank and in other areas. And I felt, as someone from the state that's reviewed different plans, we never pointed to any other entity to take over any process. It's you know, what the code is, what the efficiencies are, and it needs to be repaired. It's up to somebody else to identify. And they continue to point to West Virginia American Water. I'm not really opposed wholeheartedly, but it's, you know, I'm like everyone else concerned with the rates. Seems like they take over, they say, you know, they're tightening up rates. And then as soon as they take over, 6 months later, they can ask for another rate increase. Then when I went into American Water's homepage and was looking at their rate increases, and in 5 different areas in other states, they submitted rate increases, same time that they did in West Virginia and were approved. And if you look at their approval rate for the volume of people, you know, $1. The way I had it calculated out with the rate increases, they would be actually making about $1 billion a month. So we do need to have work done on PSD in our area in Canal Falls. But it seems like they focus primarily on the Mount Olive Correctional Facility and that problem. And that really wasn't a concern with the consumers that's been having the issues. You know, we have low water pressure and problems with pipelines. We know that for years, trying to get them repaired. But one of the glitched printed a pin, and you want to take a drastic step, turn it over to private. But then as I started looking at the different lines, I kind of questioned Count Hall has been on American Water, and the way I calculated about 4 miles of line to connect the Mount Olive facility on the American Water. Wouldn't even need Canal Falls, so that seemed like it costs about $1 million or $2 million bucks. I couldn't understand why that has never been put out there or identified. But then if it is sold, the only request I'd have is any money from the sale of the PSD be utilized down the valley for the residents who actually paid for it and have been paying for it. But as far as, you know, I like, as we look at the designs, it's like we need a new building because the building needs painted down at the treatment plant. We need this because this is rusty. That just don't cut it for me for being something that can impact it. Clearly can always upgrade. Should be looked at it upgraded. But by identifying it's a 40-year-old facility, I could probably name off multiple facilities older than that still in their operation. They still, you know, they just modify them over the years. So I agree with you on Paul's and a second look, probably the best solution or a denial. That's where I stand. I'm firmly believe. I'm not, you know, I was uncomfortable when I started looking at the rates and, you know, where I've seen rates for Smithers was a lot lower than the rates from the Canal Falls, or they call it the core district. It feels like we were subsidizing the sewer plant, sewer water from Smithers, and you're selling at a lower rate bulk water to Gully River PSD, which basically put a, you know, you reduce funding for the Canal Falls PSD to maintain their facility and operate. And that may be part of the reason why you put us in this state. That was all with the blessing and approval of PSD of the Public Service Commission. And then when I read where one of the administrative law judges identified it as a, you know, your pricing rates look like you're being discriminatory. When they asked lawyers, they went off a record, and we don't have any record of the discussion, went back, and the outcome was, well, nobody's here to complain. I guess it's okay. Well, it's not okay. We assume everyone's doing the right thing. So, there again, you know, I'm strongly opposed to American Water taking over under the way it's laid out. If you got any questions, any clarification, feel free.
Thank you, Mr. Batts. We appreciate that. And
Does Allison have any questions?
we're going to do those here in just
Any questions?
after we get all their tests. We got 2 other people. Mr. Gross, even though you were stuck in traffic, your name appeared on my list.
Well, that's because I surround myself around really intelligent people, Mr. Goodman, and my name appears on lists where I don't ask it to appear a lot of times, but that's okay. So I'm here as the president.
Had to flip case. Okay.
I'm here as the president for Canal Falls PSD. You know, we have very few speakers today representing the community, and it's important that I think that you guys take into consideration some of the calls that, John, I know that you have been on with FEMA and the project there. And the concerning part for me as president of Canal Falls PSD is that their inability to put a time frame on getting that fixed. On the call that you were on with FEMA, you heard West Virginia American Water say that it would take them a year to take over possession of the PSDs. So that means now the PSD has to function in that 12-month period. I'm assuming that we can apply for rate increases. So now we're stuck at the level that we are with repairs that need to be made over the next 12 months. And then that, from what I understand, is when West Virginia American Water will move to start repairing Camilton. Mr. Brenneman, you know from the call that FEMA's ready to move. We have a design ready to go. And I'm not saying that we completely walk away from the table, but the residents that live in Camilton and the water that is flowing into the Canal River that is then going on to Charleston should be a concern of this board. And to delay it another 12 months before the project design even starts is concerning. Because this break that happened multiple years ago, and the survey that has to be done, the design that has to be there, all of that takes time. And so I would ask you guys to consider doing possibly just the water company and doing a regionalization of a sewer company. That allows the FEMA project to move forward. That allows rates to stay lower on the sewer side. Just letting you catch up.
Well, thank you.
And that also retains jobs in our valley. The Valley District has lost multiple jobs over the last decade. And when you look at West Virginia manufacturing, they've already cut their staff. And you guys know as well as I do that once these jobs leave the valley, they are not going to come back. West Virginia American Water can say that they're going to keep them under contract and continue the process there. But as those employees retire or leave, those employees will be replaced with employees from Charleston area. And so that is revenue that is lost in our economy. That is grocery stores that don't have people that are there making the money and buying the products. All of those things are massive, and they affect the economy that you represent, Mr. Brenneman. And so in that, I ask you to strongly look at the possibility, as my suggestion, of keeping the sewer in a regionalization, which we have talked about. And with my discussion with Region 4, she confirmed that FEMA is ready to move. That FEMA is ready to move, FEMA is ready to make it happen, and we can start fixing this problem in Camilton. Any questions?
No, just time.
Okay, Allison, anything?
No, not yet. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Scott.
I'm Bob Scott of Merrick Valley Bridge. I hope in this decision that you guys are making, you're saying, what, 5 years down the road, you're gonna freeze this rate? What's going to happen after 5 years when you guys aren't here and can't control none of that?
Okay, you said,
You guys was talking about the money, leaving the money back, giving the money back to West American Water. So they would freeze the rates for 5 years. What's going to happen after 5 years?
We need to reconsider that because of what Mr. Smithson pointed out earlier, where we looked and there was a lot of that money was going to go toward overhead. So we would, if we were paid 2.5, we would have to figure out how to put that money back into the communities outside of the context of a discounted rate, because we don't want to, spend a good deal of that money on West Virginia American Water's overhead.
So everybody knows here that the valley is a depressed area. It's coming back. West Virginia American Water isn't going to help that. The prices these people are going to pay for water, they have to decide whether they're going to pay for their medications or their water bill. They're going to move. We're just now starting to see the valley rebuild, and this is going to kill it even worse than it is now. We've lost our schools to the valley. We've lost everything down that way. Slowly we're rebuilding, but this is going to kill us. Absolutely. Not like Jonathan said, the jobs that we're gonna lose and people we're gonna lose, might as well just close it up and move it all up here. Cause we're done. All I got to say.
All right, that was the only 4 people that signed up. Anybody else want to speak? I know Mr. Grooms just walked in, didn't he?
Yeah.
You want to speak?
I'm John Drew. Everyone knows me as Buster. I am a lifelong resident of the valley. And I've watched the valley die. So my position is this. I've looked at what you guys have considered with the funding and the selling of our PSD. To me, you're taking everything from our end of the valley. You've taken 2 high schools. You've taken 2 elementary schools. You've taken even a portion of the businesses. And all because everything that you're putting in place has to benefit only one area of Fayette County. And everything that you're doing is benefiting the area here on the mountain. And everybody knows it, that it's all surrounding the New River State Park. And we want everything to kind of bleed into New River, feeding into Fayetteville, Oak Hill. And your businesses are booming. Fayetteville, Oak Hill will grow. People down in my end of the valley, our neighborhoods are dying. So you take our PSD and you put us 32.5 miles based on my location from West Virginia American Water, who's going to be the supplier or the person who's going to take care of our issues. Are you going to can our local employees who work for Canal Plus PSD? Are they going to be gone? Or are we going to depend on having an issue and having to call somebody from Charleston to come up and fix my leak? I think you are the county commission. And I truly believe that you guys and lady have cut the county off. Okay? You've cut the county off, the foot of the mountain. But that 7-mile stretch between Golly Bridge and Montgomery, you have said, I'll throw a little help to Smithers and I'll toss a little help to Montgomery. A little help to Golly Bridge. The communities between Boomer, Ballsview, Charlton Heights. What about those folks? What about the kids that are growing up in our area that have nowhere to go, nothing to do? It tells our parents that you gotta get out. You gotta get out of that area down the valley, folks. Okay, you gotta move out and you gotta move. We're offering you a golden spot here, up around Fayetteville, Oak Hill. Come on up. We got the high school up here. Okay, we got the tech center up here. We got everything that's gonna make Fayette County, right up on the mountain. But what good you could do, you could just chop us off and say, why don't you apply to be a portion of Canal? We are people too. We're part of Fayette County too. And I personally believe that you said crap on the lower end of the county. And the last thing I have to say, the last thing. Okay. People in the lower corner of Fayette County. They're people too. We're people too. in one way or the other. People in the lower end of Fayette County are gonna start to make a voice and have a voice. And we're gonna start speaking. We're gonna speak loud enough for you to hear us. And I'm done.
Okay, anybody else wish to talk? Going once, going twice,
You folks taking any questions? Here, speak.
just here to speak. If you want to come up and speak your questions, I'll write them down. And then, we can address them afterwards.
Remember Jeffrey, go to Charlton Heights.
Just one second.
And I'm pretty ignorant about all the specifics here that's taking place, specifically, how this came about, why it's come about, how it's taking place, what the specifics are with West Virginia American Water and, detailed stuff. Has there been any? And I don't, I live in a hole, I don't really get exposed to media a lot or whatever. So if there's been extensive communication through media, your papers or internet, whatever, channels, I missed it all. Is there, since we're going through formal communication this way, even, now, I tried to come to the last meeting, I couldn't make it. Is it possible that there's huge, major, specific, detailed communication about everything that's taking place here and why? All the aspects, that's concerning the Mount Olive Correctional Facility, Canton's 3-year dumping into the creek, all the waste in the hollow and everything with, the infrastructure issues, detailed information. I'd really like to get informed about because right now I'm pretty ignorant. So I showed up today and I don't really know what to say to speak my piece about whatever that's going on here and all this, all this transaction and why, and I don't know this information. Now, is it my fault? You guys, it's been out there and it's been very detailed and is it, am I, is there something you can hand me today that I can say, oh, and I walk away and say, okay, I'm pretty informed now. Has that been put out there? Is there, formally, has it been detailed such that people like me, that I'm not in the, I'm not a political guy, involved in Fayette County, whatever, that I know I can learn what's going on. So, I'm concerned about that. That's, if I'm saying something, I'm saying I need more information.
Okay, I understand that, and I'll address that. Okay, stay right there. You might have another question.
All right.
This is our third public meeting that we've had. We had one down at the Valley Bridge City Hall. We had one here and then this one here. There's a 350-page document that where the PSC did an investigation into the PSD. And as far as Canton Hollow, unfortunately, we had a heck of a storm that came through and it wiped out the sewer system coming from the prison down to where it should be normally running. It's a blessing and a curse. First, the curse is that those poor folks that live there, they're smelling this stuff and they've been smelling it for quite some time. The blessing is that we're going to be able to get the piping out of the creek where it was at and move it back because the PSD's engineer come up with a way to run everything. And we've also got Joey from the PSD who has come up with a solution. Well, come up with a solution to help alleviate some of the smells that's coming down to those poor folks down Canton Hollow. It took a while to come up with a solution, but it finally came up and we're just waiting now on the blessing from the DEP. Correct, Joey? Yeah, to say that.
In the prison, right?
Yeah, we're waiting on that to get their approval so that he can start using the solution to stop some of the odors. And they have been horrific. I've driven up that hollow multiple times. And it just, I mean, it's horrendous.
Yeah, I've been up there and I smell it and I know there's a major problem since that storm, but I don't know why it's not fixed though. You know?
Well, we've been waiting on the FEMA to give us the funds. First, if we would have redid it like it was run originally, that's how their plans would have approved it, but it was too small of a pipe. So by going to a larger pipe that can handle the flow, we're able to change, or the PSD is able to change the area that it's in. And now FEMA, we're waiting to get the final approval to see when that they can fund the whole thing. It's a $22 million project. Jonathan, is that correct?
Roughly, I mean, it changes every
It's
day.
20 right now.
So by the time that they break ground, it could be 25,
Yeah,
30.
yeah, who
We
knows?
started at 12 3 years ago, so.
Yeah, and you know, we've been waiting, you know, on the funding for that. If we would have had the funding 2 years ago, it would have been started 2 years ago. But you had to wait until the plans were done and then get approval from the people who talk to FEMA and then waiting for the funding from FEMA. And right now, from our understanding, FEMA just doesn't have the funding for anything.
Yeah, I'm aware of that too.
Yeah, so it's a horrible deal. And, you know, we've been blown a major blow. Now, if the PSD would go out and get a loan for the amount to do this, the monthly payment coming back would be over $147 a month for the customers, all customers. And it just isn't worth it. I mean, it's too expensive for that. It's, I mean, FEMA's just got us tied up right now. Jonathan?
So John, the only thing that I would like to clarify on that is that number that you're going through is just a financial industry standard.
Yeah.
That's not taken through IJDC where we could possibly get the grant loans that are at a lower interest rate.
No,
But all of that would take into consideration lowering that price for our customers. So I mean, I think that I know that you're looking at what you're gonna do. But my proposal of keeping a regional sewer company and those jobs in the valley. I mean, why can't we go ahead and run that project through IJDC and let them give us what the cost would be? If there's grants that are there that we can apply for.
Payments also starting for next month. We received some in that.
I have one other question with all of that, and excuse me for interrupting. How is it that I can pump my sewage into my neighbor's yard and I don't have to immediately fix it simply because I've got to wait for FEMA to give me the money? I mean, we're gonna let sewage run from the creek to the canal down to West Virginia American Water, where my drinking water is going to come from eventually. So you're telling me that I can just pump my sewage into the creek until that happens? Or is there not some emergency action that can be taken place that should have been fixed yesterday?
Jonathan, you guys have looked at
Would
why.
you put up with having my sewage running in your?
I'm sorry, Buster, I didn't hear what Sean said.
What all have you guys looked at taking care of this situation?
Well, I mean, we're sort of tied because the way that a PSD is designed, we are designed not to make profit. We are designed to pay our bills. And when you have a catastrophe at the level that this one was, it makes it very difficult to get in there. I mean, we've done things like putting up barriers for filtering to try to filter the haze through. We've chemically treated areas. We put the tank in at the prison to basically make a cistern that would work to settle and treat that. I mean, we've taken steps to try to mitigate the process as much as we can. But the inevitable problem is the financial support. And, FEMA needs a percentage support. And then, and all of that is on play. And, John, the part that really chaps me the most about sitting here, and I'm just gonna be really candid with you, is that the governor is the one who called and said there was a problem. And the governor didn't open a checkbook to help out financially the area that he felt was so devastated. And to set through, and listen, I have kids in school, I work for the college. And then have the governor write a check to his high school when that could have helped people in our community.
You cared more about his dog than you did his people.
Can I move to strike that from the minutes? But John, I mean, that's where we're at. I mean, John, you appointed me to this board 7 to 8 years ago. And when I came on this board, the general manager was not doing his job. They were 7 years behind on audits. We had staff that were not trained. And you allowed me to appoint a board that would work with Dan and Carl that turned a PSD around to where it's on target. And when you send a poll out to my customers and ask them their opinions, John, 77% of them told me that they backed us and wanted us to keep the water. John, that was the number.
Okay, well, we're getting off target here on what we're supposed to be talking about. So let's get back on the thing. There's multiple ways that you could get information.
And I mean, could you direct me to some of those sources? Like, I mean,
Yes.
say there's a 300 and some page document
The
that I'm gonna
public,
read a report that they were assessed or whatever.
Mr. Jeffries, our meetings all have typed up minute summaries. You could look through those, and we film everything and put it on YouTube, so it could help you like figure out where on YouTube, to look for it. But I'm happy to answer any specific questions that you have. We probably need to do it after the meeting, and I can have somebody give you my phone number if you want.
But the Public Service Commission is where you find that large report.
Okay, I appreciate it because here's my extensive knowledge. I turn the water on.
And
It comes out, I use the bathroom flush, it's out of my house. How it all works and why we're here today, I've been pretty ignorant about it. I don't know.
Learn that, because I live right down below.
Appreciate it.
Okay, any other comments?
I like to speak. I've been quiet for years. And Carl Harris isn't here anymore to keep me quiet, so I thought I'd speak a little bit. So I started here with Canal Falls May 27th, 2018. And when I walked into, and what I walked into was the biggest nightmare you've ever seen in your life. I mean, trees growing out of the digester, the employees not knowing what was there, what needed to be there. You had 3 guys that were getting information up there at the PSD that everything was running just fine. You had a turnover of DEP guys. You had 5 within a 3-year period, 4-year period. It always seems that Fayette County got the DEP guy that really didn't care, was at the end of his job. Didn't mind doing his job. He didn't do it the right way. Public Service Commission, they overlooked it. Fayette County Commission overlooked it. And for 30 years, this place was allowed to go downhill. And for the last 7.5, we have fought to get it back to where it needs to be. Through an incident that happened with Gully River PSD, which they aren't named here because we all know they've got too much debt and nobody wants them. I get that, it's a business decision, it's the way it works. Okay, so they're upside down with PSD, nobody wants that. But there's money to be made here at Canal Falls, and I get that, The thing of it is, the Kelvin Holler and everything that's going on, why are we gonna make these people, and why are we gonna hold them responsible to pay for this? They have a federal government and the state government that should have already stepped in and taken care of this. Not to a little senator or whatever legislative guy got up and started making comments on Facebook that this all started rolling downhill. It was just going and it was behind the scenes and getting pushed. You know. And to have a meeting to ask West Virginia American Water to use our engineering report, well, as a businessman, why would I use your engineering report? Our engineer's making money off us. Isn't that the way it works? So if I'm going to design something, I'm going to design something that is at least cost effective to me. Still going to get the job done and everything, but it's going to be more cost effective. This design that you guys are asking to do, it's not cost effective. So you just need to stop asking West Virginia American Water to do that. They're a private business. There's just no sense in it. It's a waste of time and money and effort and meetings that we could be doing something else. To go and turn over water and sewer to West Virginia American Water, it's not a good idea. The water side, yeah, it's in bad shape. It is in bad shape, and I spend 95% of my time working on it. The sewer side, other than Hamilton Holler, what's our problem? Other than Hamilton Holler, you just want to make it disappear. Well, we're going to make it disappear, but we're going to. You've got this idea that it's going to spread all throughout all of West Virginia American Water's customers. Unless they've changed laws, you're not allowed to do that. I mean, you know, I guess it's something that could have changed, but you know, my understanding, if that's that money stays in that area. You're not allowed to do that. But yet, in meetings that we've had in the public, that's been stated. But I think that you guys, I mean, you know, you represent the people here in Fayette County. And, you know, to all of a sudden throw a water and sewer and then have to pay that big bill, I think it's ridiculous. I understand the water. Believe me, Jonathan Gross has had me from the time I come in the door, said, I ain't doing that water. That water's in bad shape. But I fought day in and day out. All right. And we made it work until I got sick. It won't go there. But you know, sitting here and selling guys for 5 years on staying at a job because, you know, it's the right thing to do. Serving the public. You making a reasonable check, being able to go home and spend time with your family. Keeping guys here, you know how hard that is? And then for me to come in and you guys look at me and say, you know, sorry about it, man. It's just, I can't do that. So, you know, it's downright depressing that we don't care more about the people that we're around every day. I mean, I understand you guys hear a little bit of moaning and complaining. I live it every day. When I started to work here, I was 6'3", 245 pounds. I stand before you today, 6'3", 297 pounds. Stressed out, divorced. Why? Because I put everything I've got into this company. And then I stand up here in front of you guys right now, and what you're telling me is this is all you got for it. Because I tell you what, I know me and my office workers and my employees, we come to work and we bust our butt every day. And you guys refer to John Fowler and you refer to the Gully River incident. In those 350-page document, there's no proof in there that states it. There's stuff that alludes, but they never proved anything. All they did is dragged it out for 3 years. And then you, John, say that your decision was made off of the engineer report, John Fowler. That's where my decision came from. Why would John Fowler's report have anything to do with it?
Hey, Joey.
Yeah.
Joey, I understand you're frustrated, but this is really for the public to be informed. And I want to say that I know that, you know, while John referenced that one report, we have all been hearing from lots of different sources that this isn't just about one source of information. I mean, we really have considered everything. And there are a lot of things to consider, but I just ask that you kind of, you know, take the emotion out of it. I know it's hard. And just,
It is really hard after, you go through 3 years and you're not allowed to say anything at all, you know? And my thing of it is I'm here every day and I deal with the people every day. I've dealt with Buster when he's been mad. I've dealt with Tom when he's been mad. But we work together, we get things done and we take care of it. You know, I think you guys are gonna lose that because, I am a West Virginia American Water customer. And I do get it. And, it's a great company, get it, but it's a lot harder to get things done than it is at a PSD. It's a lot more complicated. It's not just, hey, let me walk in the office and get this done. You go through 6 or 7 people and you take 2 to 3 weeks to get a leak adjustment. A little bit more difficult.
okay,
And, we're asking people who live in the valley that don't have access to the internet to be able to do this stuff. I want you guys to think more about your people. That's all I'm gonna say.
Thank you, Joe.
Okay, at this point, is there anybody else that hasn't been able to talk that wants to talk?
If FEMA's gonna take care of,
Come on up here to the,
if FEMA's are putting things on FEMA, why are we even wanting American Water to come in here? If FEMA's gonna fix most of our problems. Everybody's talking about FEMA gonna pay this, pay that. So we're talking about American Water taking over. Why are they here? If FEMA can take care of the rest of us, I don't know why we're even having this argument here. So what can we say? As a matter of fact, I live in Charlton Heights. I've been there almost 70 years.
what's your name, sir?
Queen. Harold Queen.
Okay.
You want me to hear it again? I'll let you hear it again. I'm proud of that name, brother. I'm proud of West Virginia. But from what I hear here, the county commission doesn't seem to care much about our part of the valley down there. When Tech left there, they divorced us all down there. So what do? We try to do the best we can. I don't think American Water would help me at all. I don't think it would help you. I don't know why you would say bring them in. That don't make sense to me. And that's about all I can say too, is because I think it's a mistake why we're even here.
Thank you, Mr. Queen.
John, there's one thing I'd like to have in minutes, if you don't mind. Can I have the mic again for a minute?
Come.
So I just want to clarify and make sure that the minutes reflect that Canal Falls PSD, just like you said with the 300-page document, was declared a distressed utility. That is factual. We know that. Okay. And we also know that it's multiple things across multiple boards. However, one thing that I think that we're losing sight of is that the sewer system, the sewer company, this is 2 companies that you guys are selling. You're selling Canal Falls PSD, which is a water company and a sewer company. The funds are not together. The funds are separated. Like all of this on the accounting side, it's 2 separate entities that you are selling. And when you consider the fact that the sewer system has nothing against it, there's no failing utility, there's nothing on the sewer side. The sewer side operates under the DEP. The DEP approved grant money for the design process of Cannleton Hollow with the IJDC that FEMA then stepped in and put money with. Like, so the company that when you think about, if you guys are sick, okay, and this is the best way I think to explain it. If you're sick and you have you have a tumor or a mass or something in your body, you go and remove that part, right? You don't cut off the arm because it was just there. And what I think you guys are failing to see is that the sewer company is completely clear. Now, granted, is there a $22 million project that we have to face? Yes. But on top of that, John, when you look at that, we have the ability to go out and get funding that West Virginia American Water can't. That's why they do what they call paper PSDs, where they get cheap grants. And that's also why Carl does no longer serve on this board, right? Because there's processes that are there that we can go through that they can't go through without making it look like a shady backyard ordeal. Because we are a public entity. And so, and the last thing that I want you to realize is, and John, this is coming, Logan County turned down West Virginia American Water,
Yes.
and they were gonna get a $20 million check. But their constituents said, we don't want them here. And my constituents have told you the exact same thing on the Google Doc that you sent out. They've told you, support the people that you appointed. I'm sorry, Greg, you did not appoint us, but John, you were in appointments for Dan and myself, I know. And so what we're asking for you to consider is you had faith in us 7.5 years ago. Why not have faith in us now? And in turn, listen to the constituents that voted to put you in the seat that you're in.
What was that number, John? Remember, was it 55-45?
I think it was 60-40 basically, that supported the board that we currently have. And the trajectory that we're doing.
Correct.
Because, John, we inform our customers. You were at the public hearing there for this, for this event where West Virginia American Water showed their slideshow. But we have had other hearings there with them because we feel that it's important to hear what our constituents are doing and what's happening. And then that way they're informed and not just hearing it through the grapevine. And unfortunately, what happens, guys, when we move to a model that has corporate America, and I work for corporate America, but when we move to a model that has corporate America controlling things like our streams and our waters, then it puts them at a different level, and the customers and the residents of that area will eventually lose all control. I'm not even gonna bring up Wet the Dries, John, but you know what's happened there. And you know how Fayetteville feels about it. You know how the river runners feel about it. And now we're allowing another entity to come in and say, hey, you're gonna drink water from the Elk River. My parents live in Clay County. That's an hour and 15 minutes from the Elk River where they take it from. The water's going to go that far to their house. And in the event that there is a catastrophe, and I know that West Virginia American Water says they've done everything that they could do to make sure that doesn't happen again. But also I know that I have 15 miles of pipe that was ripped out of the ground by a natural disaster. And I could have sat there and say, hey, John, you know what, we're good. We're never gonna lose the sewer system in Hamilton.
Hey,
West
Jonathan.
Virginia American Water says the same thing. Yes, ma'am.
Jonathan, I mean, again, I wanted to kind of stick to the facts, and I hear a lot of narration going on there.
If you
We
know me, you know
understand.
that I only narrate, so.
Well, listen, I've heard some statements, and I appreciate everybody who came today. I'm working at my other job in Charleston today, so I had to call in, but I've heard some comments about the Valley and us closing schools and stuff like that. And of course, we all know the Board of Education makes those decisions, not the County Commission. The County Commission has invested a lot of money in the Valley from the ARPA funds, including in Golly Bridge and in the shelter at Falls View and other things. So I feel like we got way off track today. But to Mr. Jeffrey's question, the Fayette County Commission received an offer from West Virginia American Water to buy Canal Falls Water and Sewer and Armstrong Creek and Page Kincaid sewer facilities. We tried it in executive session to see if there was any wiggle room. So I know, Jonathan, I agree with you. I mean, and my colleagues may too, but I mean, we asked the question because Armstrong Creek and Page Kincaid are not just distressed, they're failing. And so we have to consider the big picture with regard to this Canal Falls decision too. And so we asked the question, would you be interested in Canal Falls water and then let Canal Falls run its own wastewater and perhaps also Armstrong Creek's wastewater? And then we were going to try to see what we could do about Page Kincaid. And their answer was no. This is the deal that they offered, and that was the deal we were supposed to consider. And at first we said, well, we want to offset those rate increases. So take this 2.5 million and apply it to their bills. They gave us some numbers, and I started doing the math, and we were like, wait a minute, this math doesn't math. There's not 2.5 in discounts here. And it looked to me about, I think John figured it out, about $1 million off. So a lot of that was going to overhead, and we were like, whoa, that's not okay. So any deal that would happen, we would need to engage our communities, and I welcome your ideas. about how we can put that money back in those communities that it's their money. I mean, that money, we don't have any other plans for it. We were going to offset bills. So, you know, we try to negotiate those issues. And then, John, I believe you were going to have our council speak about some takeaways from the FEMA meeting that also concerned me. But I'll add before he does that the House just passed a bill, or well, House bill, but the legislature passed a bill and the governor hasn't signed it yet, that says in the future, the PSC cannot force companies like West Virginia American Water to take over a failing utility if it has too much debt attached to it. So we're not going to have other options if one of these others fail. And that's another consideration that we've had to, you know, keep in mind as we go through all of these, you know, different factors. We understand that it's better to have local service. I have West Virginia American Water and I live a block from where you guys are right now. It's not optimal, and we all were basically coming at it with how can we keep local control, and the fact that we have, you know, taken these steps that we have tell you that we could not find a way that gave us enough confidence to put the future of the reliability of service for our constituents, you know, in the hands of, and it's not just Kanawha Falls. Kanawha Falls did come from behind and it is functioning, but it's all three. But anyway, John, I'll give it back to you. I just wanted to make those comments.
Okay, Michael.
There's been a lot of discussion about the Hamilton Holler sewer issue, and there was recently a meeting where a number of stakeholders were involved, including the commission, West Virginia American Water, representatives from various federal agencies, including FEMA, representatives from various West Virginia agencies, including the DEP, Emergency Management Services, some individuals with the money, the Water Development Fund or whatever Marie Prezioso was operating under, her entity where they give out grants and things like that. The takeaway from that meeting essentially is that per FEMA, that if everything was ready to be submitted and FEMA was to start to analyze everything right now to determine whether or not they're going to fund the project and which portions of the projects they are going to fund and whatnot, that it would take up for a year before FEMA could make a determination as to whether or not to even fund all or part of that project. And the reason for that is FEMA, as a federal agency, has to rely upon other federal agencies to do various due diligence checks on things. One of the things that they listed was Fish and Wildlife would have to come up and do some sort of a survey and things of that. So that again is just another roadblock related to the FEMA issues. Leading up to where we are today, there were a number of roadblocks with the FEMA issue. Commissioner Brenneman hinted at this, but initially FEMA is a payback agency where they do not front the money for a project. They reimburse. They're a reimbursement agency, and part of the criteria for reimbursement is essentially that you need to basically will allow you to do some upgrades, but we're not going to allow you to do a whole new sewer project. We really kind of want things to be where they were before the accident. We kind of want to put you back to where you were before the flooding. And part of that problem was FEMA was essentially demanding that the line go back in the creek. Well, the West Virginia DEP had an issue with that. And then they did not want that pipe in the creek for various reasons. This is why we're here today. We washed out the pipe. So then we got into a fight, not we, the PSD and the West Virginia American, DEP and FEMA all had to negotiate that, and that took time. So where we're sitting at now, based upon the conversations with FEMA, is even if everything was ready for FEMA to start reviewing and making determinations as to what, if any, parts of the project that they would be willing to reimburse under the specs, which we're not even at that point, it would be at least a year until they would make that determination. West Virginia American Water, on the other hand, is not eligible for FEMA funds under this scenario. And so West Virginia American Water would not have to go through the year-long process to wait for FEMA to make a determination as to what, if any, they're going to fund, work through the funding issues and things like that. What was said in the call from West Virginia American Water is there are procedural mechanisms in place that West Virginia American Water can petition the Public Service Commission once, if this goes through and if there's an agreement, any agreement made here and any decision by the commission is subject to entering into an agreement with West Virginia American Water, which is under negotiation. But then it's also subject to the approval of the Public Service Commission of West Virginia. And once the documents get filed with the Public Service Commission of West Virginia, they may take up to a year to go through that whole process and finalize and approve the acquisition. However, during that process, West Virginia American Water can, and I think they've indicated they would look into and likely would, though I'm not going to put words in their mouth, seek permission from the PSC to go ahead and start getting work done. Their work done to fix the sewer line. So it wouldn't be they wouldn't have to wait a year before they can start putting the work in place to undertake action to fix the sewer. They could petition the PSC. The PSC would probably or likely grant permission for them to start expending funds, expending money to begin work on that project. So just from the takeaway from that meeting was essentially the PSD is in a wait and see moment where West Virginia American Water has the ability to act a little bit more nimbly and faster in certain circumstances. There's no guarantee that that's going to happen here. West Virginia American Water has made no guarantee on a timeline regarding when they can fix the sewer or things like that. However, when you're looking at those two scenarios, we do know there's at least a year before FEMA will make a decision as to what, if any, portion of the project they will fund. Because it's an interactive process with FEMA, FEMA will likely fund substantially all, if not all, of the project, because before it gets submitted to FEMA, the PSD is working with FEMA to make sure that they're in compliance with their rules and things of that nature. So it's not, I would not anticipate that if we waited a year for FEMA that they're gonna eventually say, no, we can't do this unless some other agency, Fish and Wildlife, for example, came and put the block on it. But from a FEMA reimbursement standpoint, I would anticipate, due to the working nature between FEMA and the engineer for the PSD and the PSD and West Virginia government agencies, that a large portion of the funds would be allocated there. The other aspect is, and this was briefly discussed on the call, we all have read the news and know that certain federal agencies and their fundings are subject to potential recall or not being available. Certain agencies may even get struck, and so that is a factor that also has been acknowledged, that while FEMA says that the money is set aside, they're trying to hold on to it. They do have a boss as well, and that boss may restrict their ability to fund projects. So any questions from the commission about that aspect of it?
Good. Thank you. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Confirm the region board has already submitted all of that paperwork. It's in review now, so that clock started. And then when you guys announced the merger and the sale, that's when they stopped it. So all of that process has already been submitted through region 4 and just verified.
Joe, do you remember the finish timeline on that was? But that was April of 27, when that project was scheduled to be completed.
Okay, so no one else is new that wants to talk? Okay. At this juncture, there are no more individuals that want to address the commission. So I'm going to open up the floor to the commissioners. Commissioner Taylor, you have anything you'd like to say?
I already took my turn. Sorry about that.
Okay, Greg.
Yeah, I got a couple of questions. I just want to ask you guys. Is there any disagreement that $20 million is needed to repair and upgrade and put you back to where you have reliable service. Is there any disagreement? You disagree, Mr.?
Disagree with that.
What is your disagreement with the,
You mean with the $20 million down there at alcohol?
yeah, that has to be spent to upgrade, to bring you along to where you have reliable and sustainable service?
Okay, the disagreement I have is that West Virginia Water will spend a whole lot less money than that. Now, is that going to make our bills less? No. No. If we borrow the money or we get the money from FEMA, and we borrow a little bit of money to make it work, it's gonna cost all of these people a whole lot less than what West Virginia Water is going to cost.
So in theory, you say that it's necessary, but it won't cost them West Virginia American Water the 20 million. There is a significant sum that's needed to upgrade you, to give you reliable, sustainable service. So, all right, we're there. All right. How,
That is just from the engineers, and they have been wrong before.
okay,
Okay, they started out with 12 million. Now they're up to 22 million or 20 million, because of the size of the pipe. I can't imagine that pipe costing that much more. I'm in the construction business. And I think with West Virginia Water, it's gonna cost them less to do it. But they're gonna do it on the cheap best they can do it. Okay, that's how the thing got put in there wrong to start with. The reason that thing was in the creek down there was because the state of West Virginia wanted that prison up there so bad that they had to have that sewer line put in before it could open. When they did, they did it in such a slipshod way, that thing was gonna come out there eventually. Okay, that's from an engineering look at it.
all right, and we have, Jonathan, we have you here. How do you plan to overcome this debt? We understand that we can just, 10 million here, 20 million here, whatever it is, whatever the debt is, how do you plan to overcome it?
Well, if you guys take the approach and decide to have conversations with West Virginia American Water and actually negotiate the table to save the sewer company, there will be money coming from them that can be invested in the sewer side in helping offset that FEMA money that needs to be there. So, I mean, there's dollars that are gonna be on the table no matter what you do. If you sell both entities and all of the PSDs, there's gonna be money on the table that you are trying to figure out how to put that back in their hand. If you do a regionalization of a sewer system, then that keeps the rates where they currently are, and there's no increase on that expenditure, and there's only an increase on their water usage. So now you can look at a portion of that money that they're gonna see substantial increase on sewer and water. Now they're only gonna feel half of that increase. And then that money that is left over from the sale can be invested in the FEMA project for matching dollars
From the sale of what?
from the water company. And the other two PSDs in the area that are failing.
But if you sell it, you are no longer responsible.
What I'm saying is, if we keep the sewer company.
If you keep it, there'll be no money from West Virginia American Water. Where will the money come from?
There's gonna have to be money that comes from West Virginia American Water, because you're giving them assets and you're giving them Canal Falls PSD that has no debt in it. And so when you look at, the only reason that Canal Falls is in here, Greg, is that the other two PSDs have substantial debt on them.
We understand that.
And
However,
Canal Falls
but what I'm asking is, and you're saying kind of two things. You're saying we're gonna sell, but we're not gonna sell. We're gonna keep it. We're not. We're gonna get money from, you're a nice company, but I don't think you're just gonna volunteer over a check because they want to keep their community. So there won't be any money from West Virginia American Water if we choose not to sell. Okay. And so that's out the window. Now, we're talking about FEMA. Brian, Jonathan, how long has FEMA been involved with this? How long has this existed?
Since the beginning,
How long has that been?
3 years.
3 years.
The verge of this starting to work.
And you know, I'm going to disagree with you. I don't know that we would rely upon FEMA money right now in this day and age. We all watch the news. I mean, right now, nobody's turning loose money, and it could, tomorrow, they could turn loose every drop of money that's in there, and every bit of this could go away. But you realize, and in your own words, you used words if and may and can, not shall. You're going on a lot of, it could happen. And I'm not being mean, I'm just being honest. And he is too, but he's saying if this happens, and if this goes, then you will have reliable, sustainable service. And is that something that we want to take a bet on? And if I could go out there and hit the lottery today, and you're not going to speak to me unless you got an umbrella in your drink, because that's where I'm going to be. But I'm not going to rely upon that.
The commissioner.
Yes, sir.
Western American Water is doing the exact same thing.
Okay, now wait a minute. Now, you don't speak for Western American Water.
I'm just going from the policy.
Okay, I got you. But don't speak for Western American Water. What? Okay, all right, we'll talk to them. All right, now. All right. I want to ask a question. Can you receive grants if you're labeled distressed by the PSC? Does anybody answer that? Can you receive grants?
You cannot receive grants if you are labeled distressed, but the question that you're asking is about the sewer company, which has no classification of anything in error. It can receive grants at a lower interest rate because the sewer company has nothing wrong with them.
Okay, so let me ask you this then we'll follow up the question. You said you can't. Why haven't we done it?
Because that's not the process. The process is what we're doing, Greg. The process is we file the paperwork, which we filed. They go through and FEMA says where they're willing to be involved, which that is what they were doing. And then we go back, Regional 4 goes and gets grant money and looks for loans that are there, and it goes to IJDC for what's left. All of those are the normal steps. And I understand, listen, more than I wish I did, because this process does not move quickly with public service districts. It is substantially painful. And it takes you 1.5 years to get to a funding process.
So your answer to Buster Groom would be, yeah, my sewer can bust in your yard and we'll wait 3 years. We're not going to do anything about it.
So as far as with Buster Sewer on his personal property, we would send employees out to work on that and help him get that. We're talking about a main feed line.
Well,
that has been washed out.
and Jonathan, all due respect to you, and from what I understand, you've done a pretty good job down there when you came in. However, you realize the people of Cannleton have suffered for 3 years. And we have to take that into consideration. Hang on a minute, Buster. I don't want to have sewer smell in my house. I don't want to have sewer smell in my yard. I don't. And I have West Virginia American Water. Now, that's what I have personally. I pay that bill. I'm subject to the same rate increases that we have been proposed by West Virginia American Water. I am subject to the same upgrades that West Virginia American Water would have to make. So I've heard statements that we don't care about the valley, but we do. We're giving you the same thing we have. What we do. I've got the same company. Buster, can you disagree that I don't? I'm sorry, I just won't pay my bill this month.
Okay.
But that's neither here nor there. Now listen. What we're saying is, just a minute, John. What I'm saying is, just a minute, John. What I'm saying is, we have to make decisions for the best of our people. All right.
But we're not your people.
Sure you are.
Your people are up here.
Well, we'll agree to disagree.
Okay,
Now, John, you've got it. That was my last question.
okay.
But can I add one thing? Can I say one thing? Okay, the stress that was put on the people of Canton Holler was not a result of the people of Canton Holler.
Huh?
The stress put on the people of Canton Holler was the pushing of sewage from the prison through Canton Holler.
And Mother Nature.
Okay, and Mother Nature. But Mother Nature didn't poop in it. She didn't drop a bit of poop in there. Okay, every bit of the poop came from the prison, which is owned by the state. Does the state come in and say, oh, wait a minute, that's part of my problem, then I should help out, and then KFPSD can pick up the slack. and everything be, you know. Right now, what you're saying is, Canal is deep just because everybody at the prison's got diarrhea. And they're pumping more poop down Canton Hollow. Pray Mother Nature never has a school. We can't, I mean, you can't, we are a small entity, okay? We are a small entity. And what I am trying to come across is that the strain that was added to our small entity, John Falls PSD, Boomer to Gully Bridge, literally, and then you added, Smithers to that, okay, which we were able to compensate for. But then the added load from the prison just added to the situation that we had on a system that wasn't upgraded to handle what you wanted to throw at us. The slightest storm that we had destroyed the line, and now we got poop running down the creek into the river. And we're still saying, oh, we better wait till FEMA comes. We can't do nothing. Then why are we sitting in a county commission meeting talking about something that the public service, the PSD is directing? I mean, what part are you playing in the game? If the PSD is directing everything, then why aren't we meeting with the PSD? I'm meeting with my Fayette County Commission.
Mhm.
Okay? My Fayette County Commission main goal should be the objective of protecting and doing for the citizens of Fayette County. The people that live in my area, in the lower end of this valley, lives in Fayette County.
We surely do. And they're.
Hey, stand up for our end of it. Just a little. You know, we know we're the hind parts of the county. We know where.
Mr. Groom,
No, ma'am, not
what
yet.
what you're
Not
saying
yet,
is not,
please.
you're out
Not
of order,
yet,
John.
please. Not yet,
John.
please. Not yet, please.
Let him speak, let him speak.
This is getting out of control.
Just let him speak. It's all right. Go ahead, Buster, speak.
No, I'm finished.
All right, Buster's done.
Okay,
I'm finished.
I'm gonna address a few things. Rates, we can't control. Prison takes care of itself. The state should step in. I said that already. Golly River does Golly River does buy water from Canal Falls PSD because Golly River actually sends water to the prison. So they have an interconnection between, and that's how the water goes to the prison. Actually, Golly River did a bunch of bonds and things where they will continue to take care of the water to the prison. FEMA ready to go. Leslie Taylor from Region 4. Can you answer a question, please?
Yes,
If is the money there right now, hypothetically, so they could put a shovel in the ground tomorrow?
what FEMA has committed at this point is the design money. So they committed 75% of the total design money, and Canal Falls PSD has obtained additional grant money from the Infrastructure and Jobs Development Council and the Clean Water State Revolving Fund to make up the money to design this. At the same time, as the design is being completed, that design is being sent to FEMA so they can be reviewing as well. Once they complete their review, they being FEMA, then they will determine what the cost is, or that their cost share is for the project. At this point, it does look like their cost share is going to be about $17 million.
And where's the rest of the funds come from?
Infrastructure and Jobs Development Council, and the Clean Water State Revolving Fund would round out the rest of that project funding.
Okay, and how long do you think the step is going to take now between this period of time and when they can actually put a shovel in the ground?
I don't have a good answer for that. Because it all depends on the FEMA review and how quickly they review it.
Okay.
You-
All right, thank you. Someone mentioned about a freeze for 5 years on bills. There's actually going to be, we discussed a 3-year step in, nothing, never mentioned 5 years. The county commission does nothing with the school board. That was mentioned that we close schools and we don't do anything with the board. The board office, the people who are on the Board of Education actually does that, and I think he just left. New River State Park, I haven't heard of that before. Says that we gave all the money to that. Heard a couple times that the water side of the PSD is in bad shape. Actually, and I think that the projection that we received from West Virginia American Water shows that too, that the water side is in very bad shape. Support the people that are in the area now. Let's talk about the current board. Unfortunately, Carl Harris just resigned. And we need a replacement for him. Dan lives in the area. He's been there forever since he was a child. And Jonathan has recently relocated. So we're going to need a replacement for Jonathan also. I'll tell you about board members. The county has multiple boards, and trying to find people to serve on boards is like pulling teeth. Very difficult. So we have 2 openings on a PSD board that we need people who don't work for the PSD to apply for. And we have applications online on our county website where you can do so if you're interested in trying to do that. Okay, hopefully I hit some of the highlights. When I look, if I would look at the previous board that was there, and I actually pushed to put the previous board in. Everybody laughed at me when I said I had a banker, a lawyer, and a businessman running a PSD, and they made some huge improvements. But because of the age of the system, you know, the water side, it's tough to say, hey, you know, they can keep this up. But as Jonathan pointed out, the PSC holds the PSD to a rate of just being able to pay their bills. I mean, it's tough to even give their employees a pay increase without trying to do an increase in the bill, because they hold them that close. And Jonathan and Dan will both tell you that. We've talked several times that saying, you know, my guys deserve an increase, or my gals in the office deserve an increase. But, you know, all of our money's taken out because we have an emergency where a pump went down, or we need a new grinder, or we need something else, or we've got to have extra chemicals now because we're taking care of so much water coming into our system, coming from two other areas, or 3 other areas. So they do the best they could. I mean, let's give them kudos where they did it. They come in and did some amazing things that was very difficult to do. But when I look at the program, you know, 10 to 20 years down the road, I'm thinking, okay, we're going to have families moving into the area because, like Bob indicated, the valley's starting to grow again, and that's really important. When tech went out, yes, I'll agree. When the schools were pulled out, which I was totally against, yeah, I agree, that hurt. But now we've got some people coming in externally that are trying to induce some funds in the area that's going to be doing some major things. I mean, take a look at Valley Bridge and what Bob's done down there. I mean, it's changing. He's actually doing better than some of the other areas in the valley. So we need to look at that. But where are our board members gonna come from, and are they gonna be able to handle the situations that may appear? And that's what I looked at in my decision, when I was making a decision about this, and I fought my decision. I had a couple sleepless nights. Because I look at the people that are working. And, you know, we haven't seen on paper yet, but we heard that West Virginia American Water is gonna guarantee the jobs. So people are gonna be taken care of. There's a lot of things to go into a decision like this. And, you know, I just think that's what's best for the area right now at this point in time. So at this juncture, we've heard from the commission. And is there a motion?
I move to adjourn.
I second.
Okay, we have a motion to adjourn and a second. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
That well.